Do we still get like a radio transmission at the start of these, or no? Yeah, they didn't bother with that for the side ops.
The map has been mission list updated. The map has been updated.
So back to Afghanistan. It's been quite some time. Come on, it's taking forever.
Be careful down there, boss.
Clouds approaching.
So I guess with these side ops, they don't really tell you anything. You got to figure it out for yourself. So let's go back to this. We were about a minute and a half in.
Remains, but they miscalculated. Transmission speed was far faster than anticipated. It may have been the temperature, or hygiene standards, or perhaps the parasites reacted quickly to Kikongo. Whatever the reason, nearly all villages were swiftly infected, and the settlements reduced to mounds of corpses. Making matters worse, the dry season was ending. When it came time to burn the village, the Moneni River had swelled. Many of the bodies were waterlogged,
Meaning they didn't burn completely.
the corpses still contained viable eggs, and the larvae washed downstream. And when the people downstream drank that water,
That marked the end for Bwala Yamasa.
I learned all of this at the mansion. I warned him of the risk of eggs getting out.
And
We are prepared for any eventuality.
I get it. Putting the oil field back online. The oil leaks, saner. They plan to pollute the river, prevent the spread of infection.
but the oil flow was stopped, and downstream the people of Masa village started using the water again. The PF soldiers deployed at the village were locals, spoke Kikongo. They were infected, and the kids survived.
Analysis
I've heard
complete.
enough.
And who stopped the flow of oil?
Analysis complete.
We did.
That confirms it. The source of the Kikongo strain infection was Masa village. And the children brought it here. It is no one's fault.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
The parasites. They were tested in other regions?
Extraction
Their
failed.
physiology requires that they be tested.
I'm sorry, boss, but the extraction failed. The support unit just isn't skilled enough.
Was in
If you want to increase the success rate of Fulton extractions in bad weather, you need to improve the support unit.
Languages are spoken in the mountains of Afghanistan, and population density is low. Ideal testing grounds for how accurately the parasites target only the specified language. It is also relatively easy to prevent the spread of infection.
And the results?
The first test, I am told, was a success. Once the Pashtun Mujahideen were infected with the Pashto strain, they were all but wiped out.
The Hamid fighters at Smasei Fort.
It was doubly successful. No Tajik Mujahideen or Soviet soldiers became symptomatic.
So the parasites proved to be effective. What about the second test?
Also supposedly a success.
Extraction
The
arrived
Pashtun
and the
village
sun will
was the
rise
target.
momentarily.
However, the original aim was to obtain samples of the infected.
Enemy
In this,
presence
they
detected.
failed.
The map
And the
has been
village?
updated.
The Soviets enacted a standard
Analysis
scorched
complete.
earth operation.
That must have been the village where Malak lived, before being held captive at La Marjate Palace.
Having had more time to think on it, the details shared with me
Analysis
may have been
complete.
false. They are madmen who would do anything to cover up the truth.
They certainly seem to like tossing their problems in the fire.
As a boy, Skullface's life went up in flames.
Analysis
Perhaps
complete.
that is what fuels its
Analysis
fixation
complete.
with fire.
Your Wolbachia stopped the infection all right, but I still don't get it. How can a few bacteria change males to females? I know they're only bugs, but...
It is not such a rare thing in the natural world. Many insects and nematodes are infected with Wolbachia.
But why?
They nest in the cell cytoplasm of the host, even in the egg cells, with the result that the offspring are born infected.
Mother-to-child transmission.
However, Wolbachia cannot nest in sperm because they do not have cytoplasm. So even a successful infection of a male ends after a single generation. This means the Wolbachia must resort to maximizing the population of infected females.
Sounds like an ethnic cleansing campaign on a tiny scale.
Gender change from male to female is their survival tactic.
So more females means more Wolbachia carriers, so it can keep thriving in the following generations.
But the parasites in a human host are supposed to be a mating pair. If there's no male, there'll be no offspring at all. It's killing itself.
Slow down. This tactic is intended for environments where a single male can copulate with multiple females. Originally, the Wolbachia did not infect the vocal cord parasites. I created a mutated strain, modifying the Wolbachia so that it could infect monogamous pairs. The Wolbachia's greatest multiplying tactic, the male-to-female change, worked against itself in the monogamous parasites. Just as you said. Then, I performed repeated selection of Wolbachia strains until I achieved 100% certainty of male-to-female conversion.
Creating female-female pairs, unable to reproduce.
And you say the Wolbachia affects the host of the host, that is, us, cutting off our means to reproduce?
That's the target.
Almost certain.
Is that one of our men from 9 years ago?
We will not turn.
Bring him home, boss.
After all, mammals possess no natural gender-changing function. But some Wolbachia strains can cause cytoplasmic incompatibility in the host.
Is that some cell deformity?
Put simply, it means the altered sperm of infected males kill the female's egg on contact.
And that's happened to us?
Yes. And yet, what occurs in humans is not just simple CI. To date, there are no cases of Wolbachia affecting humans. The fact that this strain causes this effect, is it the vocal cord parasite's affinity with humans? I do not know enough to say for sure.
So the parasite warps the host. Skullface said.
It is the way of all organisms to create their own optimal environment. Just look at you and this base. Organisms that cannot do this are doomed to extinction. The difference with parasites is that their environment is another organism. That creates a connection between life and life. Parasitism, symbiosis, or death. In this way, the host too is challenged.
That's weird. This guy seems to have some weird special ability. I can't take him down with tranks. I bet stun grenades are ineffective as well. Sorry, their conversation's getting really boring, if I'm honest. I stopped following a little while ago. Alright, I need to take this asshole out. I didn't realise it was going to be this difficult. What is he doing? What a lunatic. He hasn't stopped running this time. just unaffected by everything. Okay, he's taking damage from that. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. And they don't offer you any radio assistance here as well. This is interesting. Kind of turned into a funky episode.
Weather will clear shortly.
I feel like trying to sneak up on him and shoot him in the face, but... About time, bloody hell. What an arsehole. I feel like waking him up and interrogating him, but I guess I won't. Okay. Oh wow. I'll continue with the thing, the cassettes.
Extraction arrived at Metabase.
And while I do that, I'll try and take out some people.
About this OKB Zero Emmerich was talking about. Its location and features match the citadel in the mountains northeast of the Soviet base camp. Built during the time of Alexander the Great, it was left in ruins following one of Genghis Khan's campaigns. Its occupants changed time and again due to war, and it was expanded on more than one occasion. Ultimately, it fell into the hands of the Soviet philosophers. The Soviet army was using it as the headquarters of its Afghan invasion force. But it would seem that Skullface's connection with the philosophers gave him license to develop Sahelanthropus there. And that's what Emmerich was doing at the place, before he got the axe. But OKB is a designation the Soviets use for weapon design bureaus. There's no way they'd have one of those in Afghanistan. And, in principle, the numbers that follow OKB are always integers above 1. There is no 0. Perhaps this was a secret facility of the Soviet and Chinese philosophers dating back prior to World War II. Though it's more likely Skullface just picked a fake name that more or less fit the Soviets' pattern. He doesn't go there often, but he sure as hell won't miss this. They use the heliport on top of the tower for his visits. Start by heading for the heliport. Then wait for your chance to make contact with Skullface.
It seems Sahelanthropus' armor is made from depleted uranium. That's for some serious protection.
Of course it does.
Extract him. He's planning on using it for its main battle tanks too. Maybe that's where Emmerich got the technology.
Uranium. They're using nuclear fuel for armor now.
No.
I don't even know how that
What they use
works.
for nuclear fuel is uranium-235, which is extracted from natural uranium. Depleted uranium is a byproduct of that process.
Yeah.
Sort of like the leftovers, I guess. The garbage.
I've watched a video on that before.
Uranium-235 makes up 0.72% of natural uranium, whereas depleted uranium contains only 0.2%.
What are the benefits of using it for armor?
It's a pretty short list. Uranium's a heavy metal, like lead, meaning it can hold a greater amount of kinetic energy.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
That makes it an ideal material to use for, say, armor-piercing ammunition penetrators. But it's not the best choice for armor. Its volume is less than that of ceramics, but for an equal weight, you could end up with less protection.
So why use it then?
According to Emmerich, it came down to him being unable to source ceramics technology from a manufacturer. Plus, given that it's an upright walking vehicle, he wanted to...
He's coming too. Roger that.
Despite all that, depleted uranium still makes for some tough armor. And Emmerich says it's been proven in live fire tests. It stops most Soviet tank shells.
Whoa. It stops tank shells. I wonder if there's anything in real life that uses depleted uranium as an armor. I don't know if it's just a figment of their imagination. Something that's theoretically possible, but that's not representative of the real world. Or not. So if anyone knows if this depleted uranium is actually ever used as armor, I'd be interested to know. Okay, we're almost done with cassettes, and we managed to extract that son of a bitch, even though he ran away from me quite a bit. And I guess while this plays, I'll try and head to another base and get myself picked up at the same time.
Code Talker, what are the metallic archaea?
Volcanic craters spewing
We
sulfur.
reached a landing zone.
Water hot enough to boil your skin off. Ocean depths of 800 plus atmospheres.
Support helicopter
Roger.
requested.
Radioactive enough to kill you where you stand. There are groups of organisms that survive despite. No. Because of living in such environments.
I've heard about them.
Extraction arrived at
Extremo
Mother Base.
something.
Extremophiles?
Extremophiles.
Yeah.
By selecting certain species, then subculturing and repeatedly modifying them, I created a metallic offspring of pure archaea. They subsist on metals rather than organic matter.
And some of them even consume uranium?
Yes.
Come
Uranium
on.
enrichment archaea metabolize only uranium-235.
That's got to be
As a
bullshit.
result, they produce weapons-grade enriched uranium. How is that possible? Consider how plants fractionate carbon isotopes when they conduct photosynthesis. Nature possesses abilities beyond our imagination.
So it was archaea that brought down your chopper?
Corrosive archaea, yes. They oxidize metals, feeding off the energy in the electrons they receive. What became of the wreckage?
We had the R&D team retrieve samples for study in airtight plastic containers, of course.
Prudent. We shall extract archaea from it in good time. They should help you fight back against Black Anna.
Any chance we could start now? It doesn't have to be a lot. I might just have another use for them.
If it's only a small amount you need.
That's fine. I'll get the R&D team to assist. Let's go.
South Africa was previously suspected of developing nuclear weapons. It already had a conspicuous presence at the UN because of apartheid and its armed expansionism. But when neighboring Angola and Mozambique became socialist countries in '74, South Africa felt hounded into a corner. So it accelerated its nuclear program to protect itself. 3 years later, the Soviets discovered a test facility, and 2 years after that, an American satellite observed a flash in the southern Indian Ocean. It said this was South Africa conducting a nuclear test with the help of a certain ally. Skullface used the situation in South Africa to get this ally to lend a hand. They both wanted nukes, so it was a mutually beneficial relationship. On the surface, anyway.
I figure South Africa started getting serious about nuclear weapons production in '75. In '74, the government was still able to get by with bluffing that it had a nuclear arsenal. But the year after, word spread that an independent armed group in the Caribbean was crushed by Cypher for possessing a WMD. That's right, boss. What happened to you and your men was the reason South Africa decided to push ahead with nuclear development.
Whoa.
A force independent of any country getting its hands on a nuke. That was a threat to the existence of countries everywhere.
Well, yeah.
It wasn't just South Africa. Your presence pushed a lot of countries to get nukes. The world was scared of you.
Well done, Big
You
Boss.
were a threat to more than just the Cold War. If nations are gears in a machine, you had the power to smash them loose and watch the whole world grind to a halt.
Wow. Interesting stuff. Alright, let's head back. I think we've got one final cassette to listen to, and then we can beat up Eli. Before we head on to the Skullface mission.
Gaining altitude.
I wonder, do we get to hear the story of the soldier that we extracted as a result of the side-up when we return to Mother Base?
Departing.
Surely there's got to be some relevance to him being at the base 9 years ago. We'll see. Okay, still at 27%. I mean, it's interesting. If after 2 more missions I get like the first ending, you can get it with 30%, which is less than I was expecting. Alright, final cassette tape.
Emmerich uses externally powered legs of his own design. It's bionics technology, a product of the U.S. military's failed attempt to develop a powered exoskeleton. All the wearer has to do is apply a little force, and the actuators continue the movement in that direction. But his legs are unique. Instead of using a hydraulic mechanism, the actuators run off metallic archaea. That increases the actuator's reaction speed and also enables him to lock and release the joints at will. The legs are a nifty little gadget, but they have 2 clear weaknesses. First, they're dependent on external power, maybe because he built them knowing he couldn't leave his lab. There's no internal battery. That's why they won't work if they aren't plugged in. Second, and this is more than just a weakness, the legs are directly connected to his bones. Could be to minimize signal loss and the orders output to the legs and the drive response from them. Either way, Emmerich has used bolts to attach load-bearing parts directly to his femurs, probably by mimicking surgical treatment for compound fractures and the like. But the end result is those legs and his body are fused together, and that appears to be how he's able to move them so precisely. But that also means that any shock to the legs would be delivered right to his bones by way of those bolts. The same is true if he encounters the corrosive metallic archaea. If the corrosive archaea ate into the exposed bolts, they'd reach the endoskeleton parts and eat through them too in the blink of an eye. The doctor's bones are full of holes to accommodate all the bolts. They're like sponges. If he were to lose the reinforcing parts, even the tiniest bit of force or weight would snap his bones. So when I dangled those corrosive metallic archaea in front of him, he realized straight away what would happen. Life wouldn't be worth living if he lost those legs of his. I'd bet that is what the doctor fears the most. I just helped him imagine what it would be like. Thanks to that, I got the information we needed without either of us getting hurt. You know how he is. He's probably already over the shock. The better you know your adversary, the easier it is for you to get information from them. And vice versa.
So there you go, wise words from our interrogation expert, Ocelot. He's a smart man, he knows everything about everything. Him and Cars together, bloody intellectual heavyweights. They know their military stuff, their chemistry stuff, their biology, psychology, everything. Right, it's time for a side-up. Eli's challenge.
Please select a landing heading to
Let's
Mother Base.
swat the little son of a bitch down.